I'll tell you what, I'm gonna cancel all my shit, and I'm just gonna join Truth, the Donald Trump social media platform. I'm gonna try to see a doctor tomorrow.
Maybe. I do like putting stuff off, though. Yeah.
So one of my favorite pastimes is procrastinating.
He walked out in the gray light and stood, and he saw for a brief moment the absolute truth of the world. The cold, relentless circling of the intestate earth. Darkness implacable. The blind dogs of the sun in their running. The crushing black vacuum of the universe. And somewhere 200 animals trembling like ground foxes in their cover. Borrowed time and borrowed world and borrowed eyes with which to sorrow it.
And lo, for the earth was empty of form, and void, and darkness was all over the face of the deep, and we said, look at that fucker dance.
This is Heat Death of the Universe Podcast Edition. Transmitting pre-recordedly from the southern Korean Peninsula's capital seat of the metropole. It is 10:23 a.m. on this Friday, October 29th, 2021, year of our Lord... No, our Sith Lord, Anthony Fauci, also known as Fauci. And we've got a thing to talk about. We've got a thing. We'll be done in like 5 minutes. Now we've got a few things on the docket, on our plates, in, I guess, no particular order, but I would say maybe this is the most impactful, important one of our three main topics today is the updates on what I would call political prisoners. First being a guy we've talked about a lot over the last couple episodes, Stephen Donziger. The last time we talked about him, he had been sentenced to 6 months in prison and was planning on appealing this decision. His appeal, just a couple days ago now, was swiftly denied. And it's complete bullshit, as this whole thing has been with him.
Why was it denied again?
I don't remember the exact wording of the judge. Well, I mean, the real reason is because the judge is working for Chevron, obviously, has worked for them directly in the past, was handpicked by Chevron. I mean, it bears repeating like every time that his story gets brought up that this is not anything resembling a real criminal trial in any sense. Like this is a corporate trial. This is a corporation taking a person that they don't like, who's fucked with their profits slightly, very slightly. He got an award of $9.5 billion that they should have paid to the Ecuadorian people who, to this day, are still living in this swamp of toxic waste that Chevron purposely dumped there. And you know what I found out on top of that recently, or maybe I remembered, was Chevron actually told the locals that it was good for them It's like, no, it's good. It's good for your farmland. It's good for the soil. And instead it's giving children leukemia, and people are dying and really sick, and they can't plant food. I mean, it's all sorts of fucked up.
You know who's helping the federal judge that is doing this to Steve is us, the taxpayers, since we've paid up to $1 million to prosecute Steve so far to, Seward and Kessel. So that's where taxpayer money goes, making sure that we keep people off the streets who want to help improve the environment.
The other thing is yeah, I mean, that's fucked. And like, I don't know, I have the numbers on hand, but this is kind of typical for these kind of like fucking paint by numbers, like corporate acts of evil, where the corporation will spend more money than they would have spent on like paying the fine to fight the fine. Sometimes. I don't know if they've quite done that yet, because $9.5 billion is a pretty hefty amount. Although not for them. I mean, this company's worth like $200 billion or something. But I mean, this has been going on for like decades. Like this was from like this whole odyssey began in the like, I want to say early 90s. And, that's when like the initial like toxic waste dumping happened. And then Donziger himself spent like something like a decade just fighting Chevron in court in Ecuador. And Chevron also, like initially Donziger wanted to prosecute them in the U.S. because they're a U.S. company, right? But Chevron, with all their clout and power, basically demanded, no, we're going to have this trial in Ecuador, presumably because they thought that they could just more easily like just bribe whatever judge in Ecuador. But Donziger and his team like did their job really well and collected just tons and tons of irrefutable evidence and won. And then Chevron was like, God damn it, this little peacenik environmental bastard is fucking with us. We're gonna throw everything at this one individual that we can. And that's what they've been doing ever since, including up till right now. And he's in jail now. He went into custody on Wednesday.
Yeah, that's really bad. I mean, it's just like, it's awful. I've listened to him in a few interviews in different places. It's really just amazing to me that any of this is legal, especially when there's like, I think as of now, at least 200 lawyers who are filing complaints about this judge being unfair and like should like, I don't know, be punished in some way. This is like literally just like letting a corporation take the law into their hands.
Yeah, it's outrageous. And yeah, there are a lot of people who are supporting him, like individuals, like, kind of civilians like ourselves, but then also like, specialists and like institutions. I mean, the UN, for whatever that's worth. I mean, I know the UN has its problems in a lot of ways, but they're on the right side of history on this thing. And I mean, we talked about it already. Like, they put out a statement demanding he be released immediately. And I think they even added like he should be compensated, which he totally should be, for like being on house arrest for like 800 days straight or something now.
Yeah.
And like a bunch of, I don't know, Nobel Prize winners, for whatever that's worth. It doesn't necessarily mean they're great people, but it's just like people of like good standing generally in society is the point. And Amnesty International, who they wrote a couple of good articles about this. In any case, we usually don't have anything like even remotely positive to tell you guys about these kind of stories, but there is something you could and should do to possibly help get this guy out of jail. So what Steven Donziger himself said on the Katie Halper show, and he's been on there a few times, but probably his most recent appearance, he said like you can call the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, and Katie Halper basically said like, well, just tell us what we should say, like in like a kind of succinct way, so we can all like call and leave like voicemails that say the same thing. So if everyone is calling and saying the same thing, it will kind of get their attention more, hopefully. And anyway, I just transcribed like this paragraph of what he said, and I guess I'll put it in the show notes, along with the phone number, and I encourage everyone to do it. And I don't know. Like every little bit helps. I mean, the worst that can happen is, I guess, nothing. Nothing additionally that is bad. And this is the other most fucked up thing of the federal government, or rather the Attorney General, the DOJ, not stepping in, is that they've already declined to prosecute Donziger for this.
Yeah.
So, and then that's how it got kicked over to this like federal circuit court judge, slash corporate prosecution. It's just Chevron. It's just Chevron it's like they're building the courthouse.
They're making an example.
There's no jury. They handpick the judge. They were just running the whole game. And it's really fucked up, and it's setting a really dangerous precedent. If this becomes like a norm for corporations, I mean, I don't have to spell it out. Like, it's just really obvious how dangerous this could be. And I just tack on one last thing about this, like, just to make people kind of really see the visceral reality of it, that he's going to like, a maximum security prison. He's not going to like a jail, which is where
this for something that people usually don't get any time for, right? It's like something that's,
he's the first
I think
person
before
in history.
this, it's been like a fine.
Yeah, he's the first person in history to get actual prison time for this.
Contempt in court.
And he's the first person to get more than 90 days house arrest for contempt of court. And before that, there was basically like one guy who got a full 90 days house arrest for contempt of court. And that was like seen as like already like way too harsh and over the top. And so what's happening to him is just way unprecedented. Yeah. And like sort of coincidentally, that basically the same time this week, Julian Assange, there's another sort of, I don't know, milestone in this horrible saga of what's been happening to him for the last decade. And even more so since he's been imprisoned in Belmarsh in England. And previously, not that long ago, I don't know, I guess like I can't remember exactly. Time is a flat COVID circle. It makes no sense to me anymore. But I don't know, it was like earlier in the year. I'll just say it. That's my best guess. There was an extradition case. The United States government was trying to basically steal him away into U.S. custody from England. And the judge ruled no. But her ruling even was fucked up. Her reasoning was because he is at such a high risk of committing suicide if he's brought to like the futuristic supermax prison that they want to put him in, the one in somewhere in Colorado, where like you never get to see the sky. Like, it's just horrible. I mean, we described it before, but so that was her reason. I mean, the reasoning should have been no, because he didn't do anything wrong, and no one has any proof that he really did. He's acting in a capacity as a journalist, and surely if he's done anything wrong by like publishing documents, because there's no evidence that he's personally stolen any documents. Like, he's just their publisher, and he won't give up his sources, which is what drives the authorities insane. Unlike, say, the Intercept.
Oh, the Intercept gives up sources?
I don't know that. I'm starting to get a sneaking suspicion they might be, just since like several of their whistleblowers have done time.
Yeah, I get that feeling sometimes too, for some reason.
But Julian Assange really like puts his money where his mouth is on that, because there was a point along this journey with the U.S. like literally wanting to kill him, as we covered recently. how the CIA's plans leaked about all the different ways they intended to assassinate or kidnap him. There was at one point an offer on the table of like, basically kind of like, we'll leave you alone if you give up your sources for these. There was like a huge batch of CIA leaks. I can't remember the name of it now. It's something 7. It doesn't matter. But, and he wouldn't do it. Like, I don't know. Some people are like, oh, people like overly praise him as a hero or whatever. But like, to me, that's pretty heroic. Like, you really believe in your journalistic principles of not giving up your sources, to the point where like you're willing to, you have to live in isolation in an embassy, or, and then eventually go to prison where he's just being tortured. There's no debating that. Like, he's being tortured. Which, some of which is detailed in this, one of the many articles about this recent thing. I know I'm like taking a long time to get to the point here. So what's happening?
Oh, no.
What's happening right now is, hey, this is funny. An appeal. They're actually, the U.S., they're allowed to appeal a ruling, but Steven Donziger wasn't. No, he just has to go to jail. Anyway, and I don't know, I think there will be a decision made fairly soon. It's supposed to be like a 2-day long trial where the U.S. is basically, they're getting their second crack at taking Assange away. And from what I've gathered, a lot of their case hinges on the idea that, no, we're not going to put him in one of those really bad prisons, and we don't really think he's suicidal or a suicide risk. But then listen to this description, and this comes from the partisan, they don't pretend to be not nonpartisan, partisan website, WSWS. Let's see, where could I start on this?
The nonpartisan website, the one that's always promoting world capitalism and socialism in equal parts.
Yeah, the World Socialist website, which gives a fair shake to capitalism.
The WSWC, the World Socialist World Capitalist website.
I love that. .org. I love that one. They're very it's fair and balanced, like Fox News.
Bringing enlightened centrism wherever they go, looking into the world through a half and half lens.
So this article, the horrific persecution of Julian Assange continues. I'll skip down a little bit, but so yet it was Assange who sat in the dock yesterday, threatened with extradition and prosecution by the state whose crimes he revealed and which has been exposed as plotting his assassination. He was, quote, in the dock, only metaphorically. WikiLeaks editor-in-chief Kristen Hrafnsson told supporters outside the court that Assange had been blocked from attending his own hearing, just gets better and better, and would be forced to attend via video link from prison. He asked, how can he interact with his lawyers from Belmarsh prison? How can this be justice in any form? As the hearing began, Assange's lawyer, Edward Fitzgerald, told the court that his client was feeling too unwell to attend even by video link. Assange did appear on camera some hours later, visibly unwell, thin, downcast, and struggling to stay awake or sit up in his chair. He arrived in time to listen to the lawyer for the U.S. government, James Lewis, pontificate at length on his suicide and whether the risk was really all that high. Assange left the video link room for some time, sitting out of shot when he returned. He probably fucking passed out. That's my editorialization, obviously. Yeah, like even reading about the previous extradition case, they had him like they were treating him like fucking Hannibal Lecter, like worse even. They had him in like a plexiglass like encagement in the back of the courthouse where he wasn't even physically near his lawyers, so he couldn't confer with his lawyers. And now they've just stepped it up to where he's not even in the building. And I'm sure part of it is, I would almost bet my life on it that the U.S. prosecution was like, no, he can't be in the courtroom. It'll be prejudicial because he looks like shit. and he looks like he is suicidal. So, like, yeah, keep him on the video link and, like, maybe make sure he's not on for too long. So, yeah, I mean, there hasn't been a ruling yet. Like, that's, like, the next kind of big turn. I mean, it's still, like, even if the judge denies the appeal, which of course I'm hoping happens, because even though he is being treated very badly in England, he's going to be treated like, I mean, I think he will just be killed in America. And they'll say it'll be like an Epstein type situation, but maybe they'll be a little more careful about it this time. It's just really sad. And like, unlike the Donziger thing, Donziger is going to get out after 6 months. It's still
Assange is not going to get out after 6 months.
No.
I mean, I would be surprised if he ever got out.
Me too.
And I would like him to, like, obviously, but I would really be surprised.
And I mean, just to add to this like farce of a trial that's taking place, I guess as we speak, because it's Friday here. So anyway, I think there will be news soon. But well, anyway, I'll just say this is a good article, and suggest reading it. I think it like I said, it's partisan, but I mean, whatever. Read like your Reuters or whatever, but then also come read this one, because I think they really get to the point. They don't fucking like dick around at this website for better or for worse. But on this, I think they're explaining the trial and the overall context around the entire overall persecution of Assange. I think they're laying it out pretty well here. And yeah, unlike the Donziger thing, I don't really have a sort of ray of hope to give you. I know there are like free Assange, like networks and charities and things like that, but I don't really know how effective they are. I guess I should have maybe looked into that more before we started recording, but maybe next time, because I'm sure we're going to have another update about this, like probably by the next episode, I'm guessing, but we'll see. So I guess moving on, I think we need maybe a quick palate cleanser. I think
palate cleanser.
Yeah, like something mildly positive before we get to the next thing. Just real quickly, have you heard about this strike wave, as a lot of people are calling it, going on in the U.S.? Like there's some fairly relatively substantial labor strikes going on for some pretty big companies, like Kellogg's and John Deere is a big one.
Yeah, I think the John Deere one's been brewing for a long time too. No, Kellogg has. There's
some film and television workers, like I don't think it's like the talent, so to speak. It's like the kind of like the crew that makes everything possible, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't know. It's like there are some like kind of like a more harder left outlets that are saying like this is a good thing, but it's also like it's not good enough. Basically, it's basically like it looks like nothing. It's nothing compared to say like the labor movements we had in like the 1930s and 40s.
Sure,
but maybe that's you could say, well, we're not in a Great Depression yet, or we're in a sort of different style of economic crisis where our GDP still looks great, but the vast majority of people are like paycheck to paycheck. But anyway, I mean, like I said, palate cleanser, make it quick. Like, I don't want to go deep into it. Maybe we'll expound on it later, but there are numerous industries all around the country that are like gathering together sizable strikes that we haven't seen since like the 70s at probably the earliest. And solidarity forever and all that. Yeah.
Hope they have a lot of victories and that things get better.
I mean, there was, what made me realize just how much further, I guess, the labor movements do have to go is that there was supposed to be a general strike on October 15th, and it just and I even knew about it in advance, and I just completely forgot that it even was supposed to happen because it just nothing really happened. But that's the problem, is that there are this is just the problem with leftist activism being so much relegated to the internet, and it's so diffuse then. So I don't even know who set that date for October 15th. It was hard to tell. It was just a meme that I saw on Twitter a few times. So it could just be one guy who's we should have a general strike, but then none of the organizing to make a general strike happens.
Yeah.
When there was I think the last time there was even a significant general strike was it was pretty localized, and it was in Washington State, I think. And it took years of planning to pull it off. And it still wasn't even that huge. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm opening up kind of can of worms here of a larger subject, but of is real labor organizing possible if we're all just sitting on our computers? And I don't know if it is. It might be, but maybe it's going to take something more than just tweeting, And I know, and that's not to shit on people who are trying. Their intentions are obviously in the right place, but it's also just going to be a continual waste of time if we keep having a couple hundred people on Twitter go, okay, next general strike is this date, and it's 3 months away. It's that's not enough time to plan a national, millions and millions of people type of general strike, which is the only one that's really going to have any effect, I think. I mean, probably hundreds of millions, really, but that's just a feeling in my bones. You know what? This was supposed to be this palate cleanser, and I just ended on a fucking sigh. What the hell?
I'm surprised every day that people get up and do the thing they're supposed to, which is go to work, do that, go home, watch TV, sleep. Surprised every day that I do that. What's wrong with all of us?
I mean, I don't know what the alternative is necessarily
Stop.
In the near term, at least. Well, yeah, but I
know.
the trick is that we all got to stop at the same day, the same hour, essentially. Everybody, turn your keys now.
Yeah.
That's the really hard part. Of course, if you could, I mean, I don't know. This is, I've had that on a list somewhere of just do a whole episode on general strikes and what it would take to organize one. So this is a good reminder to maybe do that soon. Because I just honestly don't even know. I mean, I know the nuts and bolts basically, but the organizing part, I really couldn't tell you what the best way to go about that would be at all. And the sad reality is, yeah, it probably does take a lot of planning, a lot of time, and people are impatient, including myself, of course. And we were okay, general strike in 3 months. The revolution will happen in October. It's no, it's not going to be that easy.
No, it takes years and years and years.
It really, yeah, it does. I mean, that's why I was so excited when that huge general strike happened in India. But again, they were working on that, if not for more than a year. I know at least it was a year that they had started those basic protests and smaller strikes before they got to that gigantic one. And they're still struggling, obviously, and fighting. They haven't gotten their demands yet. But anyway, so with that palate cleanser of positivity, what the fuck is up with Bezos and Musk and the 700, approximately 700 other U.S. billionaires, and how they manage
drunk in space. That's what's up.
That is true.
Having parties in space, pissing into the atmosphere.
Tax-free, baby.
You get rich enough, taxes don't apply anymore because you pay your taxes through employing people who pay taxes in your stead.
That's one way to look at it. Oh man, that's so fucked up. I didn't even think about it like that. Oh.
I mean, without our precious job creators, how would we have taxpayers? If anything, they're the glue that holds the system together.
I think the order of things is slightly off here. This is precisely what a good old general strike would show, right? Is that's definitely not true. Pretty sure they need us in quotes, more than we really need them. But anyway, I found out about this thing. I mean, okay, it's not like I just found out that massive companies and super rich people figure out ways not to pay taxes, but I had never heard of this particular formula before, which is called buy, borrow, die. And it's, I guess the point is that a lot of times I think we, like, you know, generally speaking, think of all these like tax loopholes and stuff as like, oh, super complicated, and like it's all like buried deep in this like just really complicated, impossible to understand tax code that like only like lawyers and shit can figure out. And but it's not necessarily the case. I mean, maybe some of the laws on the books like have a lot of complex language and stuff, but the mechanism by which these fucking kings of the universe, these Musks and Bezoses, the way they end up paying 0% income tax, which they do.
They borrow against their... Yeah, I knew about this. The borrowing against what you have like invested. That way you never have to sell your investments.
Right.
And you're getting capital gains by selling your investments.
Yeah, so I mean, here's at least my dumb guy interpretation of how it works. Elon Musk gets paid in stock, largely. Maybe not completely. No, I think his salary is like 100% stock. He takes those stock certificates down to the bank like a normal schlub would take down their like paycheck, and for a very relatively small fee, he just like cashes them in, and he gets billions in cash.
He doesn't sell them, cashing it in when he's selling them. He goes to the bank and says, hey, I've invested this much money, my stocks are worth this, so obviously I can pay back a loan. So he takes a loan out, and the loan's not going to be taxed. If you sell like your stocks or your cryptocurrency, you're going to have capital gains taxes. But if you never have to sell either of those, if you can just borrow against them, like borrowing against a house, you don't get taxed for that.
Okay. Right. I mean, I guess
But yeah.
There's a sort of transaction going on between his stock and the bank. I mean, I guess it's not as if, you're right. He's not handing over his shares, but right. Yeah, just like you explained. And then, see, I found this website that's actually like, it's promoting this. It's called the peoplestaxpage.org, and they have a section on buy, borrow, die, and it basically explains to you in like 3 easy steps how to. It's weird. They keep referring to the person as a patriotic American citizen. They're like, they're so patriotic that they don't want to pay taxes ever for anything.
See, I always thought they were being sarcastic when I read all this.
I guess they're.
I don't know really anything about this organization, but for some reason when I read it, I thought they were being sarcastic with that. That's how I took it.
Because some anti-income tax movement people do consider themselves good patriots that love America and shit. They just don't think income tax is necessary. Or they think it's illegal through some really flawed reading of like the Constitution. But maybe, yeah, I mean, I guess maybe they're just being sarcastic. I don't really know what, I mean, I just assume this is like a libertarian page. But maybe I'm, in any case,
yeah, I guess they are libertarians. Well, they're really just trying to show regular people how to cheat the tax system like rich people. I'm not sure if I'm completely against that or not.
To like, I mean, I guess to quickly sort of emphasize like what I guess maybe doesn't even really need to be said, but Elon Musk is like losing his mind because of this proposed like billionaires increase in taxes for billionaires in the ever whittled down, ever failing Biden Build Back Better bullshit plan, which I'm sure even if they get any of those billionaire things in there, like the percentages are probably going to be whittled down to like, I mean, even where they started wasn't even that meaningful. It was better than nothing, but you know, but also the stuff in that bill doesn't account for scams like this. So like, it's not going to change anything really from what I can tell. I don't know, but he's still, you know, bitching about it. Because he's just an ideologue. He's like a libertarian ideologue. Fucking douchebag.
Yeah, from what I can tell, he currently has about $624 million in loans to various banks to avoid pulling out capital gains. That's a lot. I mean, it's not a lot compared to his...
His net worth is crazy. I think he surpassed Bezos again. They keep going back and forth. It says he has 287 billion like net worth right now. And he's sitting there bitching about like a couple of fucking percentage points on taxes going up, which he'll find a way to dodge anyway. So like, I don't know, whatever. I wanted to mention the fucking buy, borrow, die thing. And the death part is basically like, then whoever you like leave your money to like can continue the cycle, and that's essentially it from what I understand.
Yeah, because I mean, as long as you're rich, you know, as long as you can show you have an asset that is accruing value, like I think the way most Americans do some version of this is by having a house because it gives them equity, right? But when you have something like major investments in stocks, I don't know, then it becomes a bit more realistic to really just like borrow all your money so you never have to sell your investment, and that way you keep accruing value. And I guess ideally you're accruing value quicker than like the interest rates on the borrowing. I think it sucks that this type of loophole exists. I'm not necessarily against normal people using it though, if they figure out a way to use it for themselves. And this, I even mean like the normal people who are, you know, upper middle class. Go ahead. If you can cheat the system because it's the dumb system that we're in. We shouldn't be in it. Man, I'm so fucking negative. I'm sorry. I know that I don't have any articles put up right now. I know like when Musk was starting out with Tesla, at least, that they borrowed a lot of money, I think, against like or they took grants, borrowed money against US bonds, other stuff. Obviously, I'm dumb because I don't have all the specifics here. And I just think it's crazy that they got a lot of funding from like the US government for basically making electric cars, which is fine. We need electric cars. I like that ideal in you know, the way of fossil fuels suck. But what I don't like is they take the money and then give nothing back. And then like some other countries that you might say are doing really well in the world, like some of those Norwegian countries, they have similar systems, but when their companies take grants from the government, borrow from the government, etc., they usually have to make an agreement that like profits from their company, the government gets like 10 to 20 to 30% of the profits their company makes in the future. We don't do that because that would be like a weird form of socialism. we'd be like the government would be taking part ownership of companies, which is where I think the insanity comes in. Obviously I think these people should be taxed, but I think it would be even a bigger help if these companies were like, if they were taking grants / borrowing against the government, perhaps we should be, perhaps the government should be saying, we own part of your company now. We get part of that profit. It goes back into the system.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like such a scary radical idea to, libertarian types, or just, I mean, probably even to like some sector of like liberals even, but it's not. It's just not. It really almost comes down to like the sense of fairness that you kind of innately have as a child even. Like it's not this big like intellectual task that you really have to, I mean, of course we can like think about it and not just go on our intuitions of fairness, but like, I don't know, a lot of this stuff really comes down to like some pretty simple moral precepts, and like everyone is just like doesn't think they apply to this kind of behavior to business, to the business world. The business world should be able to run free until it needs, bailouts of trillions of dollars. But yeah, it's just a big fucking scam. All of it. What's funny is that guy whose quote I read, he's also the author of the other article I pulled up about this, called How to Tax Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. He's the one who coined the term buy, borrow, die, Edward J. McCaffrey. But he's basically talking about the billionaire's tax plan that's in the, it's stuck in the Senate right now. And he also basically says it's like a good step forward, but it's not enough. And that it might not even raise that much money. But so he's being realistic about it, but he's also saying like, this would at least help somewhat to get these people to pay any income taxes instead of none.
It would be a start.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll save another palate cleanser for after this next thing, because we're really going to need it then. The evils of Anthony Fauci. Now, this podcast has been, I think, pretty squarely an anti-Fauci podcast from the day one, maybe.
Big fan.
But we never really got into too much of the specifics, I guess. But just want to talk about a couple things about him. The first thing is that recently it was discovered that when he was testifying before Congress about whether or not the National Institute of Health, which he works for in a very high capacity, basically, did his organization fund gain of function research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology? And there was this thing we talked about on the show briefly where he was yelling at Rand Paul, and I loathe Rand Paul for the record. But Rand Paul was right about this particular thing. And Fauci was so brazen in his lying. I rewatched the video the other day. He's just like, "You don't know what you're talking about." I am the authority science man that everyone loves. And he just said uncategorically, unequivocally, we've never ever funded gain of function research. And they did. The National Institute of Health issued a letter that just said, yeah, we did. It kind of happened. It's a little complicated, and we don't need to get into all the nitty gritty details. But the main reason I even bring this up, because I don't even think it is dangerous research, and I'm not bringing it up to be the Chinese purposely cooked up a virus to infect the world. I don't think that. I think people dismiss certain lab leak theories out of hand for no real reason.
Of course they did, and this lab was funded by the U.S. But also they didn't. That's where I stand.
What? Didn't what?
The Chinese didn't make coronavirus.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course. There's no evidence of that at all. And I mean, Fauci himself in his private emails, which have leaked, has said that he said the virus looked like it was manufactured in a lab. And then publicly he's like, it's racist to suggest this. And like, first of all, yes, there are racist assholes on the right who like the lab leak theory because it
confirms worldviews
for anti-Chinese sentiment. But there's so much anti-Chinese sentiment among both sides of the aisle right now anyway. It's just that liberals, want to posture as not racist. And anyway, look, the lab leak versus the spillover from the natural world, competing theories, they're interesting to look into, and I think there's interesting evidence for both. The only reason I'm talking about it on the podcast really is that I hate how stupidly, partisanly politicized this stuff is. And you saw it perfectly in the exchange between Fauci and Rand Paul. And Rand Paul actually was talking about like a potential accident. But anyway, the point is Fauci blatantly lied to Congress, which is against the law. And of course, nothing's going to happen to him. Even though, some Republican senators are like calling for an investigation or whatever.
Or like he blatantly lied about masks at the very beginning of the
blatantly lied about masks. He's just a fucking liar. That's the reason I brought this one up first. And we don't have to get too deep into the Wuhan stuff. But
and I should clarify, when I say he lied about masks, he told people they shouldn't wear masks because it would be unsafe. And then, of course, he backtracked. And then he later, I think, even admitted to the lie, and it was a lie because there was a shortage of masks and they were worried about medical professionals having enough, it's all fucking nonsense. It should have never been said. It should have never, ever been said that masks could be harmful, because it caused, in my opinion, a lot of the problems that America's had with containing coronavirus.
Well, he also supported the move to tell everyone it was cool to take your masks off now, which led to this gigantic spike that we're still coming out of, if not like just in the middle of, depending on where you are in the world. But yeah, he's just such a piece of shit all around. And let me explain more why. So he's been working for the National Institute of Health since like the 80s. When the AIDS crisis hit, he quickly became, I guess in 1984 is when he became the head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, which is what his job still is now. And he mishandled the AIDS crisis, and I would go further and say he knowingly exacerbated it after a certain point. So like early on, people kind of scientists figured out that transmission had to be through some sort of like sexual contact, basically. I guess whatever, like if they were, it can be passed along just through blood as well. But generally, as everyone knows, it's a sexually transmitted disease. But Fauci went on like ABC News, and because there was the first case of an infant getting HIV, and so people were kind of freaked out about that. But if you like use your brain for just a moment and think, well, if sexual contact can transmit HIV, perhaps the birthing process would also transfer HIV to the fetus. Like,
perhaps.
This is a fucking doctor, man. And he went on the air and said, essentially, it seems very likely that people can pass this disease just through casual, close contact, which he defined at one point as just having normal interpersonal relationships or living in the same household with someone. So, like, all that did was like create an explosion of, like hysteria, and it marginalized the gay community even more than they already were marginalized, because now they're just like these fucking monsters who are going to like give your kids AIDS. Like, just by, you know, like people thought you could get AIDS from like sitting on the toilet seat and stuff. Like these were like real thoughts people really had for a number of years. And Fauci never really retracted this point. But worse than that is that there were plans to like make an HIV vaccine. Let's see, who was it? The Health and Human Services Secretary Margaret Heckler said in 1984 that an AIDS vaccine would be ready for testing within 2 years. Never happened. There's never one ever ready for testing. So then, of course, like tons of other pharmaceutical companies realized, you know, they could make a ton of money if they could make some sort of treatment for HIV, which a bunch of companies did. So one of those companies in 1987 is called Burroughs Wellcome, and they showed that their failed cancer drug called AZT could be used to treat AIDS. And there were very, very limited studies done, and there were long-term side effects were unknown. And the drug was approved by the FDA faster than any drug has ever been approved, at least before that time. Maybe since, not quite sure about that. It was like within 4 months, this drug was approved. And one of the things the FDA said, though, was that because we've approved this so quickly, like part of the like sort of contractual agreement we're going to have with you is that you need to bring back data 2 years later, showing like if there are side effects, how effective it is at treating the disease, and so on. And the company agreed, but since the drug was already approved, they're like, fuck that study, and they just didn't do it. And so another problem with this drug AZT being approved so quickly is that it then dominated the market for these types of treatments. And there were, I guess, like over 100 other potentially good drugs that were basically kind of stalled out in like production and testing processes,
waiting approval, etc.
Yeah. And so this company, Burroughs Wellcome, they like made record profits. Their drug was at the time the most expensive drug ever.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing that.
And you know, people are desperate. People have this like really awful disease. I don't think I need to explain how bad HIV is, especially back then. I mean, now, like, you know, there are really good treatments, which everybody knows, and like you can basically live more or less a normal life, basically a normal lifespan now. But this was not the case at the time. So tons and tons of people are doing whatever it takes to get the most expensive drug of all time. And it became clearer and clearer that it was actually toxic. It was causing damage.
Liver problems.
Yeah,
right?
liver.
Like lots of liver problems.
Liver damage, and actually destroyed white blood cells, which is like the last thing you want when you have HIV. And just this drug just was used for like many more years after the fact. And now let's like, and Fauci is in some capacity kind of responsible for this. Like he's supposed to be like this kind of spokesperson of science for the country in a way. But more than that, he's in charge of like deciding what research gets done and doesn't get done, things like that. So not to get too technical here, but basically the drug was just like, when it was finally like even like given some basic trials, it was like, this is shit. This doesn't work. This is making things worse, in fact. And Fauci declined to conduct a clinical trial. Doctors and advocates continued to push for the use of AZT. And it wasn't until like way too late that finally the NIH like really investigated this drug, and you know its use was stopped. But, that drug company made a shit ton of money and a lot of people died. And Fauci's inaction and actions as well, had a lot to do with this. Now he has the gall to say, which I believe he says in this new documentary about what a great man he is, that the timing of which just couldn't be more funny, considering the next story I'm about to go into. He's now he's playing the victim. He claims he has PTSD from living through the AIDS crisis, and he takes no responsibility whatsoever.
I think he was just trying to help Reagan kill people by not using the money that was allocated by Congress to study vaccines for AIDS to sponsor this drug company that I think he had a vested interest in anyways. Did he have a vested interest in them? I always assumed he did.
That's a good point. I don't think he did directly. At least, I didn't see anything like that. That's something to maybe research further, because I feel like something like that would have had to have come out by now, though. He's an idiot. I'm kind of convinced he's not very bright, even though he's a fucking medical doctor. Oh, but I don't think he's stupid enough to buy stock in the Burroughs Wellcome company and then push their drug. But maybe it's not in my my notes here, my sources. So okay, in I guess an equally fucked up story or element of the evils of Mr. Fauci. Oh, also it should be pointed out that activists in the 80s, HIV activists, hated Fauci specifically. And he was a target of their protest.
Yeah, there's a really famous article called Sins of Omission about him in Spin magazine from 89, I think, where it's all about AZT. But yeah, he was hated by AIDS activists for good reason, right?
Oh yeah. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Obviously, it's kind of long, but I've got this. It's from a prominent AIDS activist, and this was written at the time. This was in the midst of people just dropping dead while taking this AZT shit. It's called An Open Letter to Dr. Anthony Fauci. The writer is Larry Kramer. This is printed in the San Francisco Examiner, June 26, 1988. Anthony Fauci, you are a murderer and should not be the guest of honor at any event that reflects on the past decade of the AIDS crisis. Your refusal to hear the screams of AIDS activists early in the crisis resulted in the deaths of thousands of queers. I don't know why that sounds so like a slur coming out of my mouth. Sorry, that's stupid. It just does. People don't quite use it in that grammatical way anymore. Anyway.
Yeah.
You're present.
I feel weird about it too.
I feel weird about you saying that too, Josh. You homophobe. Okay. This is no time for joking, Joshua. Your present inaction is causing today's increase in HIV infection outside of the queer community. We are outraged that Project Inform, an organization that supposedly works on behalf of the infected community, would insult us by bringing you to our city. You can't hide the fact that you are nothing but a despicable Reagan-era holdover and drug company mouthpiece. That gets very much to the point I was trying to make through my long-winded thing. But and then right after that, he goes on to say,
there's no way that Fauci didn't get kickbacks from AC from.
I'm sure through some roundabout shell company way. Yeah,
there's just no fucking way.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. Or yeah. So in some way he was compensated, whatever that was specifically. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
it might not have been directly through the company. It could have been through the government. It could have been, like you said, Reagan even with his dementia was like, Anthony, I need you to help kill all the gays. Like, I'll make sure you get to keep your job until the year 2021 when you're fired for abusing dogs. He was a Nostradamus type, that Reagan. Anyway, the final two sentences here that I'm going to read. He goes on to say a lot more, but he says, with 270,000 dead from AIDS and millions more infected with HIV, you should not be honored at a dinner. You should be put before a firing squad. He also refers to the clinical trials of AZT as government-sanctioned mass murder. He refers to Fauci as a murderer and a liar several times throughout. I would encourage people to check out the letter. I like the open letter. Interesting look into that moment in history and summing up Fauci's role in the whole thing. And so it'll be linked in the show notes. But we should move on to the last thing about Fauci, unless do you want to add anything else to the second evil of Fauci?
No, I mean, I'm amazed. I'm amazed that he was put in charge of the coronavirus pandemic. I don't fucking understand how decisions are made.
Well,
why is the world like it is?
It is like, I mean, the role that he has, that's the person who should be doing the things he's been trying to do in addressing the virus. He's just fumbled and failed every single fucking aspect of it, and he's a fucking liar and a goddamn snake. And I agree, he should also be put before a firing squad. If not for COVID, for what he did in the 80s. I mean, he should, at the very least, he should have lost his job back then. The very least. But nope, that's not how it goes. So then there's this more recent news about Fauci that just come out, and Jason, you brought this to my attention. Actually, I hadn't even heard of it until you mentioned it on the podcast the other day. What did he do? What did he do to the puppies?
He patted them and gave them treats, right? Everyone's real upset about that because you can't treat puppies well. If you treat puppies well, they become dogs.
He put 2 masks over their mouths, but then he also injected them with HIV. So it was kind of a,
like I said, treats.
It was kind of a win-lose, evened out in the end situation.
He just understands a masked puppy is better than a grown dog.
Folks, we
you never heard that old adage when you were a kid?
Yeah, one masked puppy in the hand, something in the bush, whatever the fuck. You can fool a masked puppy once, but fool him twice. Fool can't get fooled again.
You can't keep a masked puppy down.
Oh, well, that's the transition into what really happened. Folks, we're joking because this is awful to talk about. I mean, so is the. Yeah. I mean, so are all these things. But you made a point though when you brought it up before that, like, finally it looks like Fauci might get some sort of comeuppance, and it's probably, if anything, just going to be him resigning, not even getting fired. But it's like the liberals who love Fauci can only delude themselves so much, and funding research that demands that you put a puppy's head into a sealed container and let diseased flies eat its face is maybe where they're going to draw the line.
Yeah. I mean, God, they just fucking loved anyone who said it did any back talk to the president.
They like clapbacks, man.
That's all it is. That's why they fucking loved Pelosi so much. Fuck all these people. Fuck Trump. Fuck Pelosi. Fuck everyone.
I agree. Wholehearted stamp of agreement for me on that.
Put a mask on everyone and stick them in a box and let flies eat their face.
Everyone. Then it's
Everyone,
at least fair,
including
even.
me. Let's live in an equal society of fly eating faces.
Yeah.
And no one will be judged on beauty anymore.
Is this going to be the Newland 2024 campaign slogan?
I'll wear a box with flies in it to my campaign speech.
A clear box. You just like, it's like
just filled with
and you're
flies.
screaming like Nick Cage in The Wicker Man, like it's the flies, you bitches.
There's just like a buzzing whenever I'm giving my campaign speech. You just hear the buzzing of hundreds of flies fly in my box as I talk through them and get in my mouth. Ugh.
I think we've got a winning campaign strategy on our hands. I won't ask to be your vice running mate because I don't really want to put the fly box on my head, but I'll be your campaign manager if you want. Oh wait, you're going to make everyone on your team wear
In my world, everyone's doing it. We'll go to wars with countries who don't choose to live in my equal fly box society. I don't usually promote war. I'd even consider myself a pacifist, but if people don't want to live on equal footing, those are the people I have to fight.
Yeah, so those countries get nuked, and all the other countries get to live with flesh-eating fly boxes on their heads.
I'll just equip drones with boxes of flies that they can maneuver over people's heads.
Attach them to every person. All right. This was serious. No. This was serious only up until the drone part. That's when you got crazy. That's too unrealistic. Okay. I mean, shit, man. What else is there to really say about this? Like, Fauci very well goddamn knew that this research was going on. One of the worst, and like, to add insult to injury, this particular research is not even terribly important, and it often yields like no even like useful data, but they just keep doing it.
Yeah.
And worse than that, there is like an animal rights organization. I don't think it was PETA, but it was, I don't know, whatever it was. Or no, yeah, it was like a society that's like specifically adopts like abused dogs, and they offered to take the dogs that somehow survived this insane research and adopt them and try and rehabilitate them, and so they could at least try to live like decent normal
dog lives.
Yeah. And the researchers are like, no, we just kill them when we're done. Fuck you. Like, I don't understand. It's just, look, I mean, there is the broader problem of like animal cruelty in science experiments, and this is just but one example. I know, but like, I don't know, man. I know about some of the specific other examples, but I can't. This one just really stands out, and maybe it's because people have like a special fondness for dogs, even more so puppies. That makes it all the more sort of whatever hit close to home. But if this is what it takes to get Fauci fucking disgraced, fine. But I mean, it should have happened in like 1984 when he said people could get AIDS by living in the same house together, with zero scientific evidence and mountains of counter scientific evidence to such a crazy idea. Not to mention all the shit he did after that with, you know, big pharma, letting people die, gets sicker. I mean, I don't need to reiterate the whole thing, but he is a horrible person, and it disgusts me that anyone stands by him. The thing was right before the dog thing, there were tons of people just making the craziest logical leaps and stretches to try to say, no, he didn't lie about the gain of function research. He didn't. And it's like, the fucking institute he works for wrote a letter saying, yes, he did. Like, it's right here. I can physically put it in your face. There's nothing complex about it. But anyway, that's Fauci. And I mean, those are just three, like, I think main pillars of his evil. There's more that exists throughout his career. But let's do a final palate cleanser and then giddy up on out of here. Why don't you take this one, man? You found this one. You brought it to my attention.
I'd like to go through it. Well, this is real dumb, and I really just brought it to your attention because I know you worked at Six Flags at some point in your life.
Great America branch. It was called Six Flags Great America.
I guess some guy named Dylan who honestly, this is the type of article I usually hate, but he saved a lot of money in the past few years because he realized he could buy like a yearly pass for Six Flags, where you can go to Six Flags with your pass whenever you want to. Yeah, the year-round access pass, which includes parking and 2 meals for a day, and it's like $150 for the year. And this guy, being the tightwad American he is, but also you have to realize that somehow we live in a society where people are trying to figure out how to save as much money as possible because maybe they just don't get a lot of money.
Yeah.
But for $150 a year, you can go to Six Flags every day, and they also give you 2 meals. You'll get 2 free meals. So this guy lived on his 2 meals from Six Flags every day. He'd go after work so he could get his lunch and dinner at Six Flags. That's all he fucking ate for like, did it say 7 years or something? Yep. I don't know. For a long time. Years. Now, I can't imagine living off of theme park food for 7 years because it sounds
How is he still alive?
Well, he said at first, like 7 years ago, that he really could only get like hot dogs and pizza, but then they like started to like add a few more healthier options here and there.
A bit skeptical.
I'm a little skeptical too. I just thought it was nonsense that I see this type of stuff occasionally. I don't think people should do this, by the way, but it makes me sad because I feel like the only reason you're doing this is because we've been taught somehow that it's best to suffer for money, and I don't think that's true. And that's the only reason you do this. You would do this because
he wasn't doing it to be like a fucking eccentric. Like he's totally doing it to save money.
No, he was doing it to save money. Yeah, and it's just kind of shitty that. Well, it doesn't sound shitty to go to a theme park every day for lunch, but I have a feeling you don't want to go to a theme park every day for lunch and dinner. Just a feeling, especially since that means that he has to spend like 6 hours there.
I'm sorry, I just read part of the article, part of a quote. He said, it actually does talk about the diversity of food, like, but yeah, he said at first all he could get was, like you said, like hot dogs and hamburgers, basically. Then he said you could get Dippin' Dots, sundaes, churros, pretzels. That's when I started adding weight.
Man, that Thanksgiving dog sounds pretty good, though. I've been to Six Flags, but I mean, when I was a kid, but whenever I went to Six Flags as a kid, my dad's like super into saving money. So it was always like he had somehow gotten a coupon for the tickets, and then like we never bought like souvenirs or concessions, never, because they're really expensive usually. This pass seems like a good deal, I guess, if you live near Six Flags.
Yeah, I mean, it was 7 years ago though.
Because I imagine that's what a ticket cost, isn't it? Like for a day pass.
I think it's. I don't know either. I completely forgot. I mean, the last time I was ever even around one of those places, it was probably like 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. There's just this weird culture of finding ways to save money, and it makes me sad that we have to find these like little, the average man's loophole is the year pass at Six Flags, so you can get all of your meals for the year for $150, and the rich man's loophole is borrow, die.
Huh?
Oh wait, no. Buy, borrow, die. Buy, die.
Should just be called die.
Yeah,
He just to add a little detail, whatever. The healthy thing options he talked about. He said like a carne asada salad, or chicken salad. I guess there's like salads now. It's like, it is like relatively healthy probably, but then he and they mentioned like they have like vegan like fake meat things, which I guess is, I don't know. Shouldn't eat too much soy though either. But anyway,
you just shouldn't eat. That's the real trick to it.
It says just the thing that when I laughed out loud when you were in the middle of making a good point, I was like, I just read suddenly, I got so sick of eating those chicken balls, he says. I'd estimate I got them around 150 times, and at 5 per meal, that's around 750 balls. I don't know. I don't think I could ever eat them again. You know what this reminds me of though is like we talked about that, like the girl running like a lemonade stand to try to treat her own severe brain cancer. I mean, that's a way more like sad, fucked up, extreme version. But it's kind of the same idea of like the media applauding people for doing like shit that they have to do out of being impoverished, like desperate, weird shit. Obviously, like the degrees are totally different between those two things. This guy's not trying to save his life, but like, and the other thing that sucks about this is that what he did with the money that he saved was pay down his student loans. Pay down. Yeah. Not off. He just paid him down a bit. Like, I don't know. Is this the new American dream? I think it just
part
might
of it.
Be.
It's this and gig economy jobs.
Yeah. He said his he's 33 years old, which for context, I guess. This guy's 33 years old and he's an electrical engineer. Electrical engineer seems like a job that you would make decent money if you had like a union gig.
You usually do.
So why?
Yeah, you usually make good money.
It's so bizarre.
There's also just what I was saying earlier, that people are taught to suffer for money. Save.
Yeah, I guess.
Which I think is a bad thing.
I mean, yeah, I guess times are bad enough to the point where like what used to, like an electrical engineer job like that, man, you could raise like 5 kids, like buy a house outright.
Oh, they still make a lot of money, actually. I think some people are just addicted to seeing their bank account go up and up and up.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it seems like he was doing it to pay down his debt, though, and to buy a house. That's what he says he did, and got married. I guess that costs money. Anyway, let's recommend some stuff and skedaddle
and get out of here. Sure, I've got one. So I know that they're getting ready to release Hellbound on Netflix, which I am excited to watch. It's going to be directed by the guy that directed Train to Busan. What is his name? God damn it. I know this name. Now I have to Google it. Young Sang-ho. Young Sang-ho is directing this new show, Hellbound, which I'm excited for because I really liked the webtoon called The Hell. It was later adapted by Dark Horse Comics in America. It's Hellbound, but it's a real interesting webtoon / comic, and I think it's going to be good. The trailer looked really cool, so I'm excited to go escape into this weird Korean world. It's going to be all kinds of fucked up. I think it'll be great.
Cool. I mean,
that's my recommendation.
The Train to Busan connection is definitely an incentive for me. I like that movie.
Yeah, I think he's a good director.
Did you like the Seoul Station like prequel animation thing? Did you watch that?
I didn't watch it.
Hey1 told me it outright sucked, and she loved Train to Busan, but she said that the animation thing was like not good. I don't know. I didn't watch it, so I don't know.
This show's not connected to that story at all, other than the director.
Oh,
it's really just.
I thought it was like showing like the like.
No. The show's based on the comic. The Hell,
no. I'm talking about.
Oh, you're talking about the anime thing. Yeah, that's
like
connected.
A prequel. But it's
yeah.
animated.
No, I never watched it, but yes, That is connected. Sorry.
Yeah, because it's like the train starts out in Seoul Station going to Busan. But anyway, I'm going to recommend, again, just to reiterate, calling the DOJ and leaving that. I think it's better. I say first option best is read the actual thing that Stephen Donziger said to say, like word for word. Because if they hear the same exact words over and over, it's going to feel more like a unified cause. But if for whatever reason you don't want to do that and you want to give them a piece of your mind, like straight off the dome or whatever, that's great as well. So please check the show notes for the number and for the sort of the template of what you can say. And I'll recommend a movie. I was just thinking of this because I was talking about it yesterday with a friend. I recommend the Coen brothers' first movie, Blood Simple. It is a very excellent, low budget, awesome first movie from a great directing duo. And that's all, except we have a website.
Visit us at hatedeathpod.com. Go to our Patreon. There's a link for it on the website. We appreciate your support. If you want to support us, please support us. It makes me so happy. It makes Josh cry, though.
With joy.
But that's just because Josh cries all the time. He's crying right now.
It hurts to live.
I just thought it was because you were always so fucking happy. We're also on Twitter, and that's what makes Joshua so happy is
no.
Twitter and Heat Death Pod.
It does not. I'm actually crying because of the goddamn box of flesh-eating flies you put on my head 5 minutes ago. But
I think this is the way forward for humanity.
Thanks. Wait, why aren't you wearing one? This doesn't feel right. This is all a scam. All right. Till next time, folks. It's been real-ish.
Goodbye.
Bye.
The first voice recording was made in 1860. It was a 10-second fragment of the French folk song Au clair de la lune recorded by inventor Edward Leon Scott de Martinville. But who will make the final voice recording and when? What will it be? Who will hear it?